Hey guys, in this video we are going to learn about linked lists. First of all, we'll have a look theoretically what exactly are linked lists, and then we will go to our code editor and write some code to understand what exactly are linked lists. So if you have been learning JavaScript, you might already know something about arrays and the objects. Linked list is another kind of data structure which is very similar to arrays and objects, and at the same time it's very different from arrays and the objects. The similarity between arrays, objects and the linked list is that these all are like data structures which are used to save a collection of data together into a single variable. So here on the screen you can see I have a documentation open from the free code camp which shows what exactly are linked lists. So here you can see a diagram of linked lists. You can see the linked lists basically have some jargons associated with it. For example, it starts with the head and it ends with the null, and in between there are nodes. So if you see this linked list has 4 numbers stored in it. 6 is stored at the head and 3 is stored at the tail. Whenever we see null, that means this is the last element of the linked list. So 3 is stored at the tail of the linked list, and in between you can see 10 and 12, they are stored at the nodes. These are called nodes. So theoretically we just need to understand this, and I think it's very hard to understand without writing some code. For now you can just remember that this is how the linked list looks like. It has a head, it has a tail, and in between there are number of nodes, and at every node some form of data is stored. So let's go to the code editor and let's understand exactly how this works. Now let's assume that I need to save 5 numbers in an array. So how will I store it in an array? I can say let array is equal to 1 2 3 4 5. This is how I'll store numbers in an array, and then I can console log an array. You can see the results of logging it in the terminal. Now let's say I have to save all these numbers in a linked list. How will I save it in a linked list? So let's create our first linked list variable. In a linked list, this is how numbers are stored. We create an object. It has a head, and that head is a value which is 1, and it has another property which is next. For now we can keep it as null, and let's console log linked list. So this is a very basic linked list which has just one value stored in it, but actually we need to store 5 values. You can understand the basic structure of it by looking at it. Let's say I need to store another value into this linked list. So what I have to do is inside this head object, in the next I can replace null with another object, and inside this I can store a value of 2, and I can again say next to null. Now you can see we have 2 values stored in it, and this is the data structure of how we store values in a linked list. Now let's say I want to store a third value. So again I'll replace null with the object and store a value of 3, and then I'll create another next property which I'll say null. This is a structure we keep on following to add values inside the linked list. So let's say I need to add 4, and then I need to add 5. At the element 5, the next will definitely be null because this is the tail of the linked list. This is the last element of the linked list, and head is usually the first element in the linked list which has a value of 1. Now let's understand in detail what is the difference between this array and a linked list. If you look at the array, let's say I have to access the element 3 of an array. How will I do that? Simply what I can do is I can console log array, and I can put the index of element 3, and the index of element 3 is 2. So if I console log it, so here you can see it has logged the value 3. If I want to access the value 3 in a linked list, how will I do that? Because this logic will not work in the linked list. So what I have to do is I have to log linked list dot head dot next dot next dot value. So if I log this, I get a value of 3. Now why I have two next values? Because I want to access the element 3 in the linked list. You can see there is a difference how between arrays and the linked list, and the way we access the elements in both of them. In the array, if I have to access the element 3, I can just go to element 3 and print its value. But in a linked list, if I have to access the element 3, first I have to go to head, and then I have to go to the next node in the linked list. Then I have to go to next node and get its value. So the main difference is if I have to access any value in the linked list, I have to go one by one to each element. I cannot bypass and go directly to element 3 and print it. It's not like arrays. So in a linked list, we have to sequentially access the data from the the beginning, if I have to go to the end of the linked list and get this value, I have to sequentially access every element of the linked list, and then when I reach the end of the linked list, I can get that value. Because overall, if you see linked list, overall it's a one object. Inside it there is a head, and all the values which are stored are within this head element. Inside this head there is a next, there's another object, and inside it there is another object next. So all the values are stored within each other. It's like they are nested in one big object, and it's a sequential nesting kind of structure that we get to see in the linked list. Now you might be wondering, why do we need this complex data structure? Why can't we just save these elements in arrays and the objects? And so for that we need to make another video, and we need to discuss what are the benefits of the linked list and what are the reasons that we might need to store data in the way we are storing in a linked list. I'll be making another video on that, and I'll leave a link in the description for that video as well. But if you like this video and you understand the concept of linked list and the difference between the arrays and the linked list, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much.